Telling you, you don't want it loose. You want it to be snug, because then you can just kind of free ball it down here, just hanging loose, hanging low.
The
It's totally cozy.
To be in the water. So, guys, welcome back to the Fireside Chat, where we chat by the fire. And we're doing our first annual, or maybe one of many Q&A episodes.
There you go. Yeah. We've never done one of these. This should be interesting. How much you want to bet we get out of frame at some point here?
How do you... so if a person was going to find these questions...
Well, we have to clang first.
Or have a chance to get into the Q&A, how would they have found it?
Well, we did share something on Instagram.
Yeah, on
right?
Instagram.
Instagram, on the gram.
So give Josh a follow on Instagram. Give me a follow if you want to. It's just the easiest way to post this kind of stuff.
It honestly is. I'm
not super active. Josh is probably worse than me.
I am absolutely worse than you.
But
well, which on? Instagram or YouTube?
Instagram.
I don't comment at all on YouTube.
But when we do post, we try to make it worthwhile and worth your time. So we're just gonna jump right into it.
Pop that top. This is our maiden test of Josh's homemade cold brew.
Oh yeah. We're gonna give a cold brew review during this podcast
cold
as well.
Brew review. You got to enjoy it a little bit. Figure it out. Are we already out of frame? I feel like we're already out of frame.
We're good.
Okay, cool. I can't see it from
my
my
side. On that.
Because we're on the wrong sides.
I know. I put me on that side.
It's totally screwed me up. Mm-hmm. Oh, hi, puppy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This will definitely be our most chaotic podcast ever, probably.
Oh, for sure.
But hang with us. There's going to be some real value on these questions. Josh, talk about where you're at in the season right now, as far as seasonality to the archery business.
It's flat bonkers right now. We're having a camp this weekend, the Elk Immersion Experience with myself, Joel Turner, and Dan Staten. And somebody had a great idea of let's put it in July when it's busy as hell. Fortunately and unfortunately, it is insanely hot right now, and it's supposed to be the hottest day of the year for us on Sunday. Well, it's going on, so it's going to suck for the campers, but when it gets hot like that, it usually slows down a little bit. Like we don't have as many people coming in. But it's been, as soon as 4th of July hit, going forward, it's just been gangbusters. Really, really busy on all fronts, in the store, on the website, the whole bit. So, and it's service work is keeping up. We're no more, as long as we have parts, we're no more than a day or two behind when a boat comes in. I've never been this staffed. I have 12 employees. Like, if you're bringing in your boat, it's getting fixed and it's getting turned around relatively quick, unless you needed a part that we didn't have that takes time to get.
Initial impression on the cold brew, I like it. Yeah, I am a big fan of cold brew. It does have the less bitterness, for sure. And it's consistent with what I'm used to for the cold brews I've had. Yeah, cold brew, I'm into it.
Yeah, I do enjoy it very much. I may end up to a point where I don't like hot brew coffee anymore, because it's so much smoother. It's stronger. You don't have to wait for it to cool down to be able to really enjoy it. You know, which your hot coffee, you kind of you gotta like to sip on it when it's hot, but you still are, sitting for a while. Whereas that cold brew is just straight ready to go, and I put it in my fridge in a pitcher with a little spout on it, and add water to it when it comes out because it's concentrated. But it's really freaking good. I'm kind of hooked.
So rapid fire, Floyd Farr 2 says, opinion on the hunting public.
Oh, the hunting public. I thought it was going to be hunting quietly.
Yeah, like the hunting public group.
Like,
yeah,
we got to start a fight. Great. I think the hunting public guys are great. I like what they do. I like where they're coming from. I would love to at some point, and I am more than happy to go to them to do it, teach them how to work on a bow. Because I do appreciate what Ranch is trying to do to help them and advise them, but this overlooking working on your bow or tuning your bow as opposed to sizing your arrow to the way the bow flies is a good method to do if the bow's already tuned to begin with. If you're bypassing that, you're losing something on the table. So, but yeah, no, I like them.
Yeah,
how about you?
I think they're great. I think I love your group of guys just strapping it together, and the part of me appreciates the cohesiveness of all the different guys, how they're still able to keep a cohesiveness to their story. That's really difficult to do from a group perspective. They're promoting hunting. They're promoting hunting on public land. I love it. I love what they do. I'd like to hang out with them in the future and get to know them.
They seem like good dudes.
Yeah, having fun. It's awesome.
Yeah.
N_Shillick says deviled eggs on a first date with some Miller High Lifes ?
Wow, that's bold. That's a bold move, Cotton. See if it works out for him. Probably not.
Dallas21 says, when will you shave that 70s porn stash?
That's to you, clearly.
I don't know. It's going to hang around for a little while, but the hair's not. This long hair's been fun, but man, the summer's been really challenging. And it's pissing me off like 4 or 5 times a day right now.
Yeah, it's just
the only option would be to put it back,
and
I don't want to put it back, so it's coming.
Oh, can you get it back? Like, can you?
Oh, I could. Yeah.
Oh, you gotta rock the Steven Seagal for a while. Come on, buddy.
All right, here's an important one. People, I've heard this before. This has been muttering on the internet, and they want to know. Garrett _R5 says, how much gel does it take MFJJ to spike the hair?
Surprisingly, not very much. Actually, now that it's been doing this for what, like 2 years now, 3 years now.
Wake up and it's kind of
every day.
It's
already my hair already pretty much sticks up. It doesn't.
Follicles have memory.
It doesn't. Well, it depends on how long it is too. Like as it grows out, it'll start to lay over. But when it's shorter, like this, will lay over. But when it's shorter, it will typically stick up a little bit already. But I just use a pomade, pretty much a thinner pomade, and it does take a decent amount. I don't know what a lot is or isn't because I never put anything in my hair until
bigger
like
or smaller than the size of a quarter.
Oh, more than a quarter, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you got a whole bunch of real estate all the way back here. That's a lot. That's a lot of work.
Okay, here's a good one, and we're going to get into the meat of the archery questions here. So,
okay.
Dustin Chiesa says, should shorter draw length guys, 27.5 inch, stick to shorter A to A bows? This would definitely be a good one for you to lead off with.
I think it depends on what you're doing with it. I still am an advocate for a longer A to A bow on longer distances. So if you're going to shoot, what's the best way to put this? If you want to design your bow for one particular task, if that task is shooting distances beyond 50 yards or 60 yards, to myself, and each bow is going to be different, each brand's going to be different where the modules peak and the velocity that you get at them. And if we're talking about your longer axle to axle bow versus your shorter axle to axle bow having the same brace height or not, because traditionally as they get longer, they get higher brace, gets a little more forgiving. If it's a 50 and in, like the majority of the world, short axle to axle bows are fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They actually make a whole heck of a lot of sense in certain aspects. Yeah, there's advantages drastically. I just don't want my bow to peak its draw length at my draw length. For me personally, and well, for most people, because it doesn't tend to stay tuned. It doesn't tend to stay maintained. It's constantly coming out of orientation and what have you. So is that Chloe?
I don't know. I can't tell.
Oh, God.
Dog potential.
Oh,
chickens.
man.
Yeah.
I was like, Chloe! Chloe! Oh, no, she's right there. That's not her. Wonder whose dog that is. Huh. No, they're right here. They're all right here. We have all creatures present. He's on one of the chairs. If only we had a second camera, that would be a great shot to catch.
Oh, my God.
He's literally draped over it, sniffing.
I got funny-ass dogs.
Oh, you do have funny dogs.
Okay, so...
So, yeah, I would say there's nothing wrong with it, but if your goal is to shoot long distances, I probably wouldn't. I know Dan and some of the other guys that run shorter bows like them for everything around, and there are some definite advantages to a shorter bow. But if your goal is to shoot long distance, I would still gravitate towards a little longer bow, especially if it's not that much heavier. If you're giving up like 0.2 of a pound for it, you're only going to cut your arrow so short. At a certain point, your bow becomes the length of the arrow, right? So it's not going to benefit you at a certain point.
I've had to debate this a little bit internally this year, and I know he's referring to shorter axle guys, but I have the Dart and Consequence, which I like a lot. I think it's very great for its size, and it's fast enough. And then I have the Elite Ethos, which is longer axle to axle. And where my head is at right now is if it's likely a sub 50-yard shot, it's Consequence. If there's the potential to reach out past 50, and I don't really want to shoot an animal much past 50, but it would be the Ethos.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
it's a really good method to take. It is. Like if you're draw your line, how far do you intend to shoot this bow? Is this thing most likely going to get used at longer distances primarily? Probably ought to go with a longer bow. If it's inside of 50, short's fine. If you like what you're listening to, or you like what you're watching, depending on how you're viewing this, leave us a review. Give us a like. If you want to help support the pod, use coupon code Josh and Tim over at Jocko Fuel. We really support their products, love their products. They're really good stuff. Typically using them every day. I've tried a lot of their supplements. I actually take a whole bunch of their supplements, vitamins, etc. I've had really good luck with them. We do sell them on the website, but you can go to them straight from Jocko Go and get 10% off by using coupon code Josh and Tim. And of course, don't forget to go to podiumarcher.com, www.podiumarcher.com, and use coupon code TimC at checkout to save 10%.
How many, Liam Knowles 13s wants to know, how many arrows does Josh have sitting in the shop?
That's Liam who works in the shop. I don't know, a lot, probably.
Is it tens of thousands? Yeah. It
Oh,
is.
well, I think, I wonder if he's referring to how many of my own random arrows are just laying all over the place.
Could be, yeah.
Which I'm not sure at all. Actual arrows, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of them for sure. There's probably not a million, but there's probably $250,000 in arrows.
Yeah.
Chloe, move. Go on.
Let's go through a couple of the few top arrows that you see go out the door.
Number one arrow it sells every day is Rip TKO, hands down. Primarily
and that's
our
grown
shop.
a lot over the last 5 years, right? Like,
Yeah,
that
it's
wasn't a
grown
really
every year.
popular arrow 5 years ago. And
I was actually looking at our website analytics, and it's the number one or number two selling thing in the entire
Weird.
shop.
Yeah,
in
that
the
doesn't
entire
surprise
shop.
me.
Rip TKOs for sure. And then after that, it's Rip XVs. Like those are our two most popular
that surprised
selling
me a little
arrows.
bit.
Well, yes and no, because XVs get overlooked by a lot of shops. And if you're out there and listening to shops, I'm telling you, some of your customers are using and buying these arrows. And if you're not carrying them, you're losing a sale because it's getting more and more popular. The GPI weights of arrows are reducing. Every time a new arrow comes out, it's typically lighter than the arrow before it. And that is the lightest 5mm arrow or 204, whatever you want to call it, that you can get. And we do primarily sell 204s. Next most popular arrow past that's probably the Black Eagle Rampage.
I've seen
And then a regular Rip.
some internet rumors about a potential new arrow coming to market. Have you?
Well, it depends on what those rumors are, but it's probably accurate.
Yeah. No, I know it to be well, I don't know it. Purely internet rumors. Supposedly a new arrow is going to come to us. Curious to what that'll be and if it'll be innovative. I think there's room for arrow innovation. I think so, and I'm just curious if it'll push the boundary of arrow innovation. But definitely light GPI is the trend, right?
Yeah, definitely light GPI is the trend.
And there's nothing wrong with light GPI because you
No.
can still make your arrows heavy, and then you just have a lot of FOC.
Yeah, you're just putting the weight where it belongs. Like
Yeah.
every facet of arrow building, whether you're a heavy arrow guy or a light arrow guy, the heavy arrow guys push for more weight in the front. So any way you slice it, ideally you want the lightest arrow possible. You just use a stiffer version of it with more weight in the front and get it to bend and flex the way you want. So, and like the heavy arrow, the Ranch Fairy guy, he knows this. He literally has pushed that direction a ton.
Yeah.
On a lighter
Yeah.
overall
it seems
GPI
that,
arrow.
Yeah, it seems like
So
it slid that way.
Heavy arrows are the past. They just are. Now, it's not a heavy total weight arrow. That's just a heavy GPI arrow. They are the past.
Yeah. Better question for you coming in here. Colby M11 says, what are your thoughts on the new ripcord ratchet cable driven rest?
I actually deliberately picked that rest this year to shoot through all the stuff that we've done, and anytime I've picked up a bow to shoot, it's had that rest on it. And I wanted to put it through paces and see how durable it is, how well it holds up, if there's problems with it. I've heard rumor stuff that there's a couple of problems. I have not seen one. We have not sold a ton of them. Our guys in this shop typically like what they like, and so we'll sell MX2s and Hamskis, just period. Like, and I still don't think you can beat the build of a Hamski. It's bulletproof. It's well made. It's well machined. It's quality. There's nothing about it that's cheap.
It's kind of like a Spot Hog. It's just heavy.
Yeah, but the
there's
Everest isn't heavy.
there's
The
lighter
Everest is
versions
actually
of it,
pretty
yeah.
light, and that's the newest one. It just, you give up micro adjust and the dual bearing system, which I don't think the dual bearing system's necessary at all. That's a completely overbuilt thing. I would love to see a micro adjust Everest. I think that's probably the cat's pajamas. Or QAD and them to finally agree on allowing the use of the integration that's already in play. That would be really nice to see. But I have had zero problems. I have had to take it off and put it back on. I've had to readjust the tension once or twice, but it was super easy, super simple. There's a little play in it, like you can feel it if you grab it and move it, but that play is always going to be absorbed by gravity, right? So whatever play exists in the rest is going to automatically drop to its bottom point. It's not going to like maneuver its up and down positions or anything like that. Yeah, it's been really reliable, more reliable than I thought. It does fit on the integrate back very well. It goes on clean. It hasn't moved. It hasn't shifted. I do have the ratchet, the limb-driven one, not the cable-driven one. Cable-driven one looks really good too. I mean, I'm really impressed with that company finally coming back with a relevant arrow rest, and that appears really good. Like I haven't had any problems. So, but we've probably only sold 10 or 20 in the shop. It just hasn't taken off because I think Ripcord kind of burned themselves a little bit in the market for a while, and it'll take a while to get that market back. But so far, I have zero complaints, and it's comes in at a price that's less expensive than their competitors. So for what it's worth, it's definitely one to take a look at.
Yeah. CE Pod says, I love your pod, best thing of the week. Thank you very much.
Aw,
yeah,
so sweet.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. 144 Perrin, it says, has MFJJ had problems with his Matthews match strings? He's had some stuff. Sounds like they stretched on him or something.
I have on my Lift 33. I've had to readjust them twice. Now, that being said, that bow's been around a lot. Like, it's been in a lot of different environments. It's been rained on. It's been cold. It's been hot. It's been dry. It's been dusty. It's been flown with multiple times. So I can't say it hasn't been abused. But I'm going to throw a set of gas on it. They sent me a set just last week, and I was waiting until after this camp to film it because I'm going to do a video of installing strings on it just to cover how to do it. But I can also say my match strings that are on my title haven't budged, and that bow's got more arrows through it than my Lift.
Yeah, and I know a few other people who have pounded on their title strings with pretty good success.
I think the strings are different, and I think something in what they're doing is different from the target bows to the hunting bows. That being said, we've seen it a couple of times that it's stretched. So I'm just going to change them out with the others, give it a fresh start.
Could a DIY person at home mitigate most of those problems by, when they set their bow up, leaving it in like a drawboard overnight?
It wouldn't hurt. I mean, most of what you see when you get stretched in that quality of a string, it's when it gets really hot and the wax melts. That's underneath the serving.
A little bit of water seems to...
Water will do it too, because water will seep its way in underneath the serving.
Yeah.
So those two things will. I don't think... If a string's relatively good quality, which I do say those are good quality strings, I don't think they're all coming out perfect and not having some stretch variation in there. But I don't think putting it in the drawboard would do anything to those strings and leaving it in there. It's not going to hurt it to do it, but I don't think it'll help a thing.
Dennis J. Holm wants to know, would the Beast Broadhead work for a low pounded shooter? He didn't qualify for what a low pounded shooter was, but maybe we call that under 55 pounds.
So that's an interesting question because they're also not qualifying what we're shooting at. Right. So if you're talking a deer, the biggest absorber of energy is the cut, and that is the sharpest broadhead I've ever looked at. Like, the blades are super sharp. Now, iron wills are also very sharp, so don't get it twisted. But I don't know what they're doing to that blade, but it is scary sharp. Like, you can't touch it without cutting yourself. So
I think the 25-cent pair of gloves they send with it is probably one of the most brilliant marketing plays.
That is the smartest marketing thing I've ever seen. It's like, you better put these on your fingers. You're going to cut your hand off.
Because it gets people talking. Like, yeah. People will be like, "Did you see that? They came with these gloves."
That's so smart, and it's a little fingertip thingy. Right? Oh, it's so clever. No,
like a little finger condom or something.
Yeah, you put one on each of your fingers to push them back in and re-engage them. But I know the flight characteristics of that head are incredible. I'm going to start shooting it at distance here next week to the week after I rebuild the Lift and start comparing it to the other bows at distance. And that broadhead really intrigues me, although it does bother me that it's aluminum ferrule, and I would love to see it out of titanium. That would be really cool, and it's already a $60 for two and a practice broadhead, which is a lot. It's still cheaper than an iron will and some of the other ones out there, but it is definitely, I want to say, the most expensive mechanical broadhead that I know of. Now, someone down below is going to comment about 4 of them that exist that I don't know about or I'm unaware of, but it is the most expensive one. So flight's supposed to be phenomenal. Durability is supposed to be real good. I do know of one guy who shot one last year that it kind of blew up on him, but it was after it hit the offside shoulder of a mule deer.
I've heard the same story about a sever and an offside shoulder.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a broadhead design thing or if it's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what that is.
But I think because of its sharpness and the way the blades will compress if you're trying to go through a rib or something, I think it's probably okay at lighter poundage. I really do. I think that thing could probably go down to 50 pounds and still penetrate pretty well. For a deer, for sure. Elk, I don't know, man. I'm hoping that all the testing that I am creating will quantify those numbers relatively well, so it'll give you a better analytical approach to it. But for my money, I would probably say yes. I haven't tried it yet enough, but I would probably say yes on that one. That was a really long answer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What I was going to say is I've got a few archery influencers that influence me. One of them primarily is Bodie Turner. And when I hear him say something or endorse something, I really oftentimes take note of it. And he said multiple times that the beast has flown really well for him.
Yes.
And I don't know anyone that can shoot more like a robot than him. So
yeah, Bodie will pick up a bow, shoot a 330X with it, and go, that bow shoots good, but it won't win Vegas. Anybody that can do that can definitely tell when something flies right and doesn't.
He's endorsing the flight, and it's come known to me that not all broadheads fly the same.
Well, and I want to say, when we were in Big Sky, he was talking about he was shooting critters around his house or something, and I want to say he shot several animals with the same broadhead without changing the blades
or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, and I know Joel's really, like, he actually messaged me this week and said, hey, are you stocking those? I don't want to make sure I get some when I'm coming through because he's going to be here this week. So yeah, that's
a guy who's just put a lot of arrows through animals, so he's not going to play around with his broadhead.
Well, and I'm going to ask him if he's going to shoot it out of his recurve. Because now we're really talking, okay, well, it really must penetrate well, because that definitely doesn't penetrate well in comparison.
This is a great question. MAYFIKYL says, do you see any real differences when you switch vanes, like a bully versus a tack driver 2.25?
Yes, I do. Especially at distance. And when I see it the most, and this is when I start playing with vanes. Like I just grabbed some different vanes at the shop before you got here to build some arrows with a vane I haven't used before. And I'm not really going to comment on it until I see what it does, but you will absolutely see its flight at distance because you sit there and watch it over and over and over. And I'm going to film a bunch of it with the long lens and the slow-mo so you can really see it. But they absolutely do fly different, 100%. And there's a combination of the amount of twist and the amount of height profile and the amount of overall surface area that just is money. And certain combinations, you'll take that same size of vane and you'll take a bunch of helical out of it because it's parachuting or it's dragging. It's creating drag. And my goal is to find the ideal profile and height that I can put a crap ton of helical on and I don't get any drag. So that typically means a smaller broadhead that will then still stabilize, or a smaller vane that'll then still stabilize a broadhead. That's the tricky part. Because ironically, when you test velocity, less helical and more helical doesn't actually change how fast it goes. You get the same velocity out of it, and it typically doesn't drop more if you're talking the same profile of fletch. It's shocking. It should, but it doesn't. And I think that's Newton's third law of motion: objects in motion remain in motion, or something like that. I think once that thing gets turning, it doesn't take more energy to maintain its turn. And people would think that, well, yeah, it's turning, right? It's turning faster, so that's going to create more of a resistance, and I don't think it does.
Oh, what you're saying is once the motion is there, there's not a higher rate of speed or rate of drag.
Correct.
Basically.
Yeah, and
that makes sense to me.
I want to say,
why would it spin faster?
Well, the Ranch Fairy did a test with the hunting public guys, going back to that one, where they were testing different vanes, different helicals, different mounts, and shockingly, the one that had a crap ton of helical on it hit higher with the same weight vanes. It actually hit higher. I'm like, what the heck? That's interesting. So, but sometimes they get results that don't make a lot of sense too.
Yeah, so one quick reaction to some of that stuff is the hunting public just did another little series with the Ranch Fairy, and I think I've seen most of them or most of the videos. But one thing that gets circled back to a lot when when people are having arrow discussions is if you're not shooting it through the animal, it's not a fair testing surface. And while I would agree that shooting it through an animal is a great way to get real-world testing, if you were testing for the purpose of purely science, then you were to say, hey, this is supposed to be a scientific test.
It'd be a terrible medium.
It'd be a terrible medium because it's not going to remain the same all the time.
It's not going to ever be the same. It's
yeah,
going to always
never be
different.
the same. Like if you shoot one bone and then you shoot through another chunk of that bone, that could be a 1/4 inch thick in one spot or 3/8 of an inch thick in another spot, or your last hole hurt the structural integrity of that bone. So, and I won't say that the best solution has been found for what to shoot through that does simulate an animal well. I think there's still ways to work through that are better, but I think that's just something to note. If you've heard that said before, oh, you got to shoot through a bone or an animal to get a fair test, that's a good real world simulation, but it's not
a good comparable.
It's not a scientific.
Yeah, you can't comparable product A to product B that way.
And it is one way to compare, I will say that. But if you're just looking for a purely, hey, does a schwacker go through a piece of material as well as a beast? You can't really judge that. You can judge one version of that, but there's definitely a better way to do it.
I agree. That's what I'm working on, buddy.
Yeah.
One of my 100 projects.
All right. So, what is your guys' favorite cereal from Fish Edit Repeat? Do you have a favorite cereal?
I don't eat cereal. I haven't ate cereal.
Not even as a kid?
Oh, dude, it's been forever.
Okay.
God, back in the day.
I'm telling you what, cereal's one of those things like
Peanut Butter Crunch was high up on the list.
like a Captain Crunch kind of deal.
Yeah, the last thing that I ate that you would call cereal is I would get like Quaker Oats granola and yogurt. Yeah. That was like the last thing that I ever ate that was cereal, and then I don't eat anything.
Yeah, there's a couple foods that like if I'm like into some junk food, cereal's one of them, and I think that's probably because I just ate it a lot as a kid. It's just like you can just remember like kicking back on the couch with like a giant bowl of cereal.
Sure.
And yeah, I'm not so into the sweet ones anymore.
But what was the go-to when you were a kid, though?
I would take like a Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I would take that way up there.
And my kids loved Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is really, really good.
I think I was too old. I think it came out when I passed the cereal age, to be honest.
Yeah. And then
it's a little more modern cereal.
If I was like, hey, I'm trying to go curb my cereal craving, I would go get like Special K with red berries.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I did dig on Frosted Flakes.
Yeah,
Frosted Flakes were friggin' good, but you go look at all that stuff and go, look at this garbage that the businesses are feeding kids.
Oh, terrible!
It is straight
terrible
garbage.
Yeah,
like it's terrible.
And yeah, like when I was in high school, that was the bottom of the food pyramid. It was you're supposed to get your grains in first, which is your cereals, your breads, your rices, the
food pyramid's hog feed. It's what they give pigs to get fat.
Yeah, it's what they give pigs to get fat.
It's such a joke.
Yeah.
The stuff that we've been tricked into to believe for not a lot of money. The sugar industry bribed them, if I remember right. Rogan's talked about it multiple times of how that happened.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of stories about like
to try to villainize beef and fat.
I've heard other stories about how they've swayed like the tests to make it seem more healthy than it is or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But
the food pyramid needs to be lit on fire. It's the most inaccurate thing. You flip it upside down.
Eat real foods, yeah.
Yeah, other than there's probably candy on the top or something. Don't ever eat
that. Okay, Big Bass Head says, what broadheads are you guys using this year? Might have already said, in which case my bad. I'm a little undecided.
I'm a lot undecided.
Yeah, my fall is still very unplanned, which is really uncommon this time of year for me. But, I'm trying to buy a house, and that's taking a lot of my time and energy. And I think because of that, my fall just I haven't planned it out like I normally would. So I don't even know what I'm hunting. But typically I would go into the field the last year or two with a couple fixed heads that I really trust and a couple expandables that are well tested. So that would look like a Grim Reaper Fatal Steel. I used the Carnivore last year with good success. Grim Reaper makes a good set of host mechanicals. And the Grim Reaper Micro Hades is the fixed blade that I really trust the most because a year or 2 or 3 ago, I did a lot of broadhead flight stuff. And man, that one just considerably grouped. It gripped really
That head
well.
fly is really good.
And anytime I've spun it or taken it out of the package, it just spins true. It's very sharp. It's for a broadhead that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It's just a very solid, reliable fixed.
I agree with that. No, those are all good true statements there. Yeah, I haven't decided at all. I will definitely be trying beasts. I will be trying several 1.5 hybrids.
Yeah.
I will probably be trying the
Is the Several 1.5 hybrid the one that's got a little bigger
got a blade in
cutting
the
point
front?
on the front?
yeah.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I'm into that. If I can get just that little extra cutting point on the front.
Yeah, I mean, the negative to it is you can't really practice with it without dicking up the front blade.
Mm.
And that's contradictory to the overall design of how the Ulmer Edge, which is what that is, was originally designed. But I think there is a definite plus to it, definite positive to it, and it'll be interesting to try. They're claiming the best flying broadhead they've ever made. And let's see what else. The Evolution Outdoors, they got a couple of broadheads that are real interesting, and there's God, what's it called? There's another one that I ordered that I haven't seen yet, hasn't come in yet.
There's a couple of trendy broadheads that are small, and I always hear people say they fly like darts.
Like what?
And what's that?
Like what?
God, what's the real small
QAD Exodus.
fixed one? No,
That was always
even
flying.
smaller than that. It's not coming to my brain right now. It will, but little small triangle points. And the people that like they fly like darts. And yeah, that's like a flight characteristic of a smaller broadhead, is it should fly better. The line I've been trying to dance with is what's the widest thing I can get through an animal consistently. And yeah, I really haven't. I think I'm teetering pretty close to that line, so I'm not necessarily looking at changing my setup too much. But all the animals I've shot through, I keep passing through. Right.
So just make a bigger cutting diameter.
Yeah,
Did
so
tell
go
you
more
don't.
cutting diameter. I mean, why would I consider going heavier? You know, it just my only thought is
I want to go through lengthwise and go out on the shoulder blade.
dude. I shot
Right at the knuckle.
Okay, so I'll admit to this. I shot my biggest whitetail in 2 or 3 years ago, and he came in, and then he kind of got spooked. There was a bunch of deer around. I was trying to get my bow out. I very likely spooked him, but he spooked and he stopped at like 25 yards, and he was hard quartering away. And for me, it was like a now or never moment. It was like, I'm going to shoot this deer now or he's done. He's gone. And maybe he comes back later. I don't know. And I was like, okay, I'm going to send it. He was hard quartering away, and he would have been quartering. So I would have been looking at his near side glute and shooting out his offside shoulder.
Okay.
And I made a perfect shot through the top left part of his near side glute, all the way through his body, through his heart, out the offside shoulder with a micro Hades at that time, and probably a 440 grain arrow. So that went through the total length of the deer.
It's a lot of penetration.
Ass to chest.
Yeah.
Now,
And through a hard part of the deer.
it probably was a perfect shot, honestly. Like, I could have totally put it into the spine and mucked that up, or maybe went left and not made that happen. And, you know, I still don't know. I mean, I got the deer, so that was the outcome I wanted. But I probably wouldn't do that again, honestly.
That steep angle?
Yeah, it was steep.
Yeah, I won't do that again because that was
Yeah.
the angle I took on that bull last year that lived.
Yeah.
Because it's just you don't think about it when you look at that angle. It's not that terribly hard when you get that steep to possibly miss everything and still feel like you made a good
Doesn't
shot.
take a lot.
Where you want to aim would almost make you miss
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah.
don't do extreme angles.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't go more than quarter anymore. Anything
Preferably
over quarter.
quartering away. Yeah.
Yeah, away. Period.
For sure,
going
yeah.
Broadside or quartering away, and don't exceed quartering. Because I mean that kind of angle's like what? Geez, like 80 degrees. That's steep.
It was a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's a lot of mass to go through.
yeah, and it was a big deer. It was like 140-inch, 5.5-year-old deer, heavy body deer, and the arrow just went through him, and he probably went 75 yards, and it was it was a fairy tale ending to maybe not a great decision. So I was glad to have that deer recovered.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good
Michael
story,
Allman,
Tim.
Oh, what's that?
Good story.
Yeah. Michael Allman Archer wants to know, why does Josh
No.
doesn't have any back pressure when he shoots?
He's a fool. I do too.
He's just messing around.
I know he is.
Yeah.
I have a beautiful follow through.
Yeah.
It's quite unique too.
Michael just won our top pin challenge, which is a big deal for this area.
Yes, it is.
He
was ahead by a lot.
He built himself a good margin going into the shootout.
Yeah.
So Michael's been on the podcast. We love Michael. And he just chalked his first victory at, kind of like, what would you call that? Like one of our top regional shoots?
It probably, he said there was like 350 people at that, and that's probably about as big as a regional shoot gets around here.
Yeah.
You don't get more than that
For
many
this
people
area,
showing
for
up
sure.
stuff. You go to, I don't even know if all those other, what's the one at Stevens Pass or whatnot? I think that gets more people.
Northwest Challenge.
Northwest Mountain Challenge.
Yeah.
I think those get good turnouts.
Yeah.
And of course the TACs get really good turnouts, but the closest one from here is 7 hours away. So I wouldn't call that local or regional. Even that's a ways out.
Yeah, if you're in the comments section and you're thinking about going to Northwest Mountain Challenge, I would like to hear from you because it's something I consider every year, but it always ends up being at the end of the year, so it's just difficult timing. But
yeah, I'm thinking about hunting.
Yeah, I'm thinking
I
about
went over to
hunting.
my cousin's
Exactly,
yesterday and shot 200 yards a bunch.
Oh, nice.
That was fun.
Weston Satzinger says, Weston.Satzinger, can only, this is a loaded question, but whatever, we'll answer. Can only select one arrow weight and broadhead combo to hunt with for the rest of your life. Let's just assume it's what we do, which is mostly Western hunting.
Okay.
What would you do?
Only one?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Arrow weight would be...
It's going to be the same thing.
It would be
Bet you money.
400. I'll probably go a little heavier than you. Arrow weight would be 450 grains, and the broadhead would be Grim Reaper Micro Hades because I know I could shoot that through anything with great success. And it'll also fly well at a long range.
I feel like it's not fair that you went first because I was picking the exact same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, like I've built a ton of different things over the years, and if you're forcing me to use one period,
that's like an Old Faithful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
450. I would shoot a Rip TKO 300 spine, 28 inches. Probably shoot DCAs on it. Probably shoot the minis on it. I'd use a probably 50 grain titanium on that, not a 30, and 100 grain tip.
Yeah. And I came to that via you and Dan and
dude, it's the right middle of the road deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. You're at 9 grains an inch on an arrow shaft, which every arrow I've seen come out. In fact, this launches Monday, right?
Yep.
So Black Eagle came out with a new arrow. I just filmed on it the other day with Corey.
Well, I didn't know about that.
Well, I was going to talk to you about it.
Yeah. Logan Bridges _1 says, is there so much thing as too much FOC? Has a RIP XV build at 412 grains and 19% FOC currently.
So my experience and why I've always recommended around 15 is when you get past a certain point, it just tends to fall a lot faster and dive a little bit more at the long range stuff. But I think that sweet spot's between 15 and 20, and I generally err towards 15. You get above 20, and it's just going to drop like a stone. It's more than you need. As long as, in my opinion, as long as 15% of the mass is ahead of the halfway point in the arrow, it will track well in the wind. It'll lead well through a target or an object. Doesn't need to be excessive. That being said, if it flies good, it flies good, and don't worry about it. But yeah, between 15 and 20, and I err towards 15.
That's a good ending statement. I really don't have an opinion on it because I haven't messed around with the super heavy FOC stuff. My arrow setups the last 5 years have probably ranged from 14 to 18% in there. So, and I'm not necessarily trying to build to that. It's just that's where they end up being, and I know that's a pretty good spot to be. This is a great question. Ken Ackerman with 2 N's at the end says, what's the best way to fine tune your draw length to be the most stable / accurate? Let me try answering this real quick, Josh, and then you add to it. I would just really say trial and error. And I would also add to, there's a few cues you could look at with your draw length if you had the opportunity to film yourself from the front, from this view, straight on, when you're not wearing a floaty. And so I'll just look at Josh real quick. But so you can actually kind of look at the rear elbow's height. And a lot of times if you're overdrawn, that elbow will be down below the arrow. Does that make sense? If the draw length is too long. And I don't see too many guys or gals where the draw length is too short, although sometimes you will. And that just looks more scrunched up. But ultimately, I think it's mostly a trial and error process, and there's some good ways to get yourself in the ballpark from a starting perspective. But why don't you expand on that?
So your bow shoulder needs to be down, so it can't be like up,
Right.
elevated. It's got to be down.
Yep,
First
your-
off,
your lead bow
your arm
shoulder.
relatively straight, but not hyperextended.
Yep.
Right, not bent, but not perfectly straight. Wrist needs to be down, not extended up, flat, good pressure. And then you need to draw the bow back, have your hand behind your jawbone, but physically touching bone. And ideally, if you could be standing at the arrow looking at the shooter, the arrow would look like it's going through your elbow on the offside. So like where the position of that is, if the arrow fired backwards, it would go through your elbow. And when you get that draw length just right, as you're pulling through the shot, your sight picture won't move nearly as much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the biggest reason and advantage for it. But it is a lot of trial and error and familiarity with your ability to shoot and how you hold and point. You'll see it more in that scenario. But it is a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, a lot of trial and error. I would just get yourself in the ballpark to start, and then mess around with it. And that's where you either really got to have a press close to you that someone you can trust can work on your bow, or you have a setup at home that you can dink on it with yourself. Because if you want to mess with that kind of thing, it really helps to have an at-home setup or friend that you can is close to home or whatever. Yeah. Another great question. Caleb Dahl, D-A-H-L, says, when do I know if an issue is the tune or me? Understanding most of the time that it is me. Says he loves the pod. So.
Well, this is where I would say I would use a friend. And I would use a friend, stand in front of a paper tuner, and both of you shoot through paper, and do the tears look the same? If you think your bow's out of whack and you think it's the bow and not you, let somebody else shoot it. Did the tear change? If the tear changed, you're holding the bow differently than that person. And that's what I use a lot to tell when it's individuals, because I'm not applying any pressure in my hand, so I can see a clean tear versus a not clean tear relatively easily. And a paper is an amazing tool for actually working on your form and your grip. It really is. But that's the first thing I would do if you're unsure if it's you or the bow. Have somebody else shoot it and see if they get the same tear. If they get the same tear, it's probably the bow. If they get a way different tear, it's probably you.
Or if you shoot 5 arrows in a row and they all have different tears.
Oh, it's definitely you. But no, you can have people that torque really bad but torque consistently.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily mean it'll look different. But if you hand the bow to somebody else and the tear looks drastically different, it's you.
Mm-hmm. Alex.Lowe's32 says, who's had the largest positive impact on archery in the past 20 years? That's a tough question, but does anything come to mind for you?
Overall, largest positive impact? Whew. There's a couple that come to mind. And it would be arguable. Joel Turner's one of them for sure. He just gets through to people in a way that most people can't, and solves a lot of the mental problems that exist in this sport, and getting people to think about it differently. So he's a huge one. Love him or hate him, John Dudley created what we're doing for the most part, and what I'm doing regularly. And it's, putting it out there in the public and trying to get people to work on their own stuff. And he kind of pioneered that for the most part. George Riles did the same thing. So that's a name that should be in there, because he's done so much teaching, so much learning, so much knowledge stuff. I'm probably overlooking somebody, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Yeah.
First.
I was actually going to say, although it's been probably mostly in the last 5 years, probably the biggest net positive effect I would say is Joe Rogan. Because he's talking to so many people who he's probably brought more people to a bow, I would estimate, in the last 20 years than anybody else. Maybe second or third to him would maybe Cameron Haynes. But yeah, Joe's talking to the world's largest audience, and he's promoting. Yeah,
I would like to restate that. It's probably Rogan, actually, just because he's painting us in such a positive light to people that don't know bow hunting, or don't possibly even have any interest in bow hunting. Yeah. So you got to give it to him. Yeah, it would be cool. But what was the question again? Say the question.
Who's had the largest positive impact on archery in the past 20 years?
Yeah, I would say Rogan.
Yeah.
And I take that back.
It would be cool who's
improved archery were the ones
if in Joe's archery rounds he made it out this way sometime. It'd be so much fun to sling arrows with him. Just because he's been such a nut and fanatic about archery, I know he would just fit in with the people that hang out here and shoot a lot.
Sure. Well, he's more than welcome at any time. Anytime.
Yeah. You guys coming to Upertac? Can MFJJ's mom be a guest on the pod? No, I'm not coming to Upertac this year.
Uper?
Yeah.
They mean Utah, right?
No, in the Upper Michigan.
Oh, Uper.
Yeah, they added one to the schedule that is like Western Upper Peninsula at one of the ski resorts I've been to before. It would be a cool one to kind of make it back to eventually. I don't know. I didn't get it on the schedule this year. And so Josh isn't coming as well. But
I'm done traveling for shoots this year.
Is your mom ever going to be a guest on the pod?
I don't know, man. My mom's so emotional that she'll probably cry 15 times in the middle of it. Oh, yeah. You bring up something and she'll start crying, and then I'll get all emotional. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, your mom's really sweet, nice
She's the
gal.
sweetest lady out there, hands down. She's the sweetest lady on the planet. She just got her new house done, moved into it, and she's super psyched and happy, and all of a sudden started working a little less. Which she's got a lot going over there to get everything put away and put together and organized. And it's her first brand new house. She's never had a brand new house.
Yeah, that's got to be so exciting.
And never got to design it and pick it out. And my cousin designed it, but she's got to pick everything in it. And he just did an amazing layout for the square footage and everything. We've been in it. I mean, it's a gorgeous house, and she's just happy as a clam. The lady has never had central air in her life, and it is 72 degrees all day long, all night, whatever. And yeah, so it's so funny. She had to have a fireplace, and I'm like, you're not gonna want it because it's always the same temperature. Yeah. You don't need it, but she got it, and she's happy.
Okay. Weston.Satzinger says best Western hunt / opportunity for a Midwestern guy wanting to try out West for the first time. I'll go first. I think if you know what animal you want to hunt, that's cool. If you don't know what animal you want to hunt, mule deer is probably a more forgiving hunt. Elk is really unforgiving. It's very challenging. And if you've never hunted elk, there's definitely a learning curve to it. It's just so much different. Because I came from the Midwest, it's just so much different than sitting in a stand for whitetail. It's so much more active. It's so much more physical. You can make so much more noise in the woods. Thermals play a role. Herd dynamics play a role. There's a lot to learn about elk hunting to be really good at it. And I don't consider myself to be really good, but mule deer would be a more forgiving hunt. I would pick up a OTC mule deer tag, and I don't know, I would hop on. It's so difficult to say a generic one or state because a hunt is so personal to the person that wants to do it. But I would use one of the hunt research services and decide what kind of hunt you want, and just go pick an OTC one and go get in the mountains and glass up some mule deer. The cool thing about mule deer hunting is you're mostly seeing animals, even if the hunt's bad. Do you have any ideas for?
Well, one that has been brought up to me multiple times that I have not done, but I have heard really positive things is Utah cow elk tag. It's early. It's supposedly there's a massive surplus, and it's still an over-the-counter tag, I believe. Not super expensive. So that's probably one that I would say if you're going to do a first one and you're okay with shooting a cow elk, that one's pretty attainable. And most people, when they say they want to hunt out west, they usually want to hunt elk. So that would be my recommendation on that one. And
nothing to shun about a cow elk either. You're going to bring home 200 pounds of meat,
Yeah, and
more.
I'm not sure the specifics or parameters around it. It was so Jared from the Hunting Fool had recommended that. It's like it's a super easy hunt.
It's a good opportunity hunt.
It's a great opportunity hunt. So call up the Hunting Fool, ask for Jared Lyle, and say, hey, what were you talking about for this cow elk hunt?
Yeah, and ask him why he hasn't sponsored the podcast yet.
This is I'll ask him. He's coming.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he's coming. So I will ask him.
So we're gonna pin him down in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jared's a nice guy. They offer very good service for people researching Western hunting.
And it's incredibly reasonable. It's really cheap.
And the ability to set it and forget it too, which is more and more appealing to me now. I don't really want to be a researcher. I want to be a hunter, and I want to just lean on other people who are good at that.
I agree.
Okay, we'll do a couple more rapid fire here. Eli Forsyth 99 says, how many grains is the best for a broadhead?
I strongly recommend 100 grain broadheads for one very simple reason. They're all available in 100 grains, so you're not limiting your choices.
So Josh says 100s. I would say 125s, just because a lot of times that with the arrow setup, that seems to get you to the weight.
Yeah, I didn't quite finish because I was going to say 125 is a better design, but you get limited with choices. Is only negative.
Oh, this is a good question for you, Josh. What would you recommend for someone for their first sliding sight? Morley _-014.
Black Gold Ascent. It's really hard to beat that sight. Dollar per dollar. When you say your first sight, I'm assuming there's probably a budget in mind. If you don't buy at least that nice of a sight, it's probably not going to have all the adjustments to really take advantage of a movable sight. And if it's less than that, it's probably going to be made poorly. Probably not going to be great quality. And Black Gold Ascent has first, second, and third axis adjustments. 20 yard zero stop. You can get it in a 1-pin head, 3-pin head, 5-pin head, whatever you want. So you can make any kind of configuration for your own personal preference. It has every feature that I want a sight to have outside of micro adjust, so you're not spending a mass amount of money for it. I think it's around $250 to $270, depending on your head. So personally, that's what I would go with as a first sight. I'd personally go up to micro adjust and pay the extra, but when you say first sight, I'm assuming there's a budget in mind.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get two more, and these are two more good ones we'll finish with. Cooper.Robinson85 says, if you're new to archery, how can you tell a shop is good? Besides reviews, what do you look for? I would just look for someone who's interested in helping you, genuinely interested. Just genuinely interested in helping you, someone that cares about archery. You know, I think you can decipher that if you spend a little time around somebody. How they're interacting with other customers. Are they helpful, thoughtful? Do they care about the success of the people in there? And use your judgment. And then, when you're setting up a bow, you do want to leave that place with a good clean bullet hole. And anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's really simple. When you're going to have something tuned, ask them what they're doing to tune it. How are you tuning it? Are you using like tools and gauges? Leave. Are you adjusting wheels to get it to orientate and tune? Are you adjusting the timing, or are you moving knock height around? I mean, are you trying to move the rest back and forth a bunch to try to get it to tune, or are you adjusting the wheels? Any good modern shop that knows what they're doing is trying to adjust the wheels to tune the bow. If they're not doing that, I'd go find another shop that hopefully is.
Yeah, good answer. Green_John says, when do you think Hoyt and Matthews will change their cam tuning methods?
Soon.
Yeah, I would guess if I had
couple years.
If I had to put my crystal ball out, I would say within the next 2 years.
It wouldn't shock me if Matthews did something this year.
Yeah.
This coming year. It wouldn't shock me because they're aware of the problem.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't shock me if they did that this coming year. Hoyt will probably be last because they usually are.
First ever Q&A pod. If you liked it, talk with your fingers and leave a like on our YouTube video. If it gets more than 500 likes, we'll run back another Q&A pod. I'm happy to do these as often as they do well.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I like it.
I like interacting with you guys. Any closers?
Shoot your bow, like totally, quickly, now. It's getting close to hunting season. And if you throw an earbud in one ear and listen to this and shoot your bow, that's even better.
Yeah, shoot your bow, get ready,
your bow.
Get your broadheads on, get them tuned. Season will be here before you know it. That's awesome.
Yep.
We're going to sign off today. That's the Fireside Chat. Chatting by the fire. We'll catch you on the next one.